Baraza, Black Wealth Matters. I have a very interesting conversation with university professors as well as people in the crypto ecosystem. Okay, what we'll do is everyone take about 3 minutes and give some background information on yourself and how you are connected to the topic.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Jared Ball. I'm a professor of Africana Studies and Media Studies at Morgan State University, author of The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, co-founder of Black Power Media, and host of I Mix What I Like. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rayven Moore. I'm a CPA in the state of Texas. And in the crypto, I'm big on education. I'm a partner at a company called Crypto EQ, and we provide unbiased cryptocurrency research.
My name is Obi Egbuna Jr. I'm a journalist. I'm the U.S. correspondent to Zimbabwe's national newspaper, The Herald. I'm the U.S. correspondent to Southern African Times newspaper. I'm a children's playwright. I'm the co-founder of the Mass Emphasis Children's History and Theater Company. And I'm an African history teacher. I've been teaching for 31 years, primarily K through 12. And I am here at the invitation of one Mr. Sinclair Skinner.
I'm Terri Friedline. I'm from the School of Social Work at the University of Michigan. And so I'm an educator and a researcher there on financial inclusion and banking and finance. And I'm looking forward to talking and learning with all of you this afternoon and appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I think that was everyone. I think someone was in the room that wasn't supposed to be in the room. So here's the elephant in the room. Does Black wealth even matter? Isn't money green? Isn't, a dollar, a Bitcoin? What does it actually matter? Who wants to take that? Anybody can jump in.
Okay, I'll start. I think Black wealth definitely matters. Growing up, we didn't have very much money in my family. So it really is about starting from what little we do have and growing it where we can. And I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency really brings an opportunity to grow wealth kind of exponentially. So with that being said, my purpose in life is to get this out to as many people as I can so they can help themselves and then be able to teach others in their family and in their circle around them.
So Black wealth certainly matters. It's just that Black people don't have any and are, through public policy and design, kept from accessing it, as are a majority of even white folks within a white supremacist capitalist society. And the mythology is that investment and speculation or technology can change that. So whether it's cryptocurrency, blockchain, or other technologies over the past that have been said to be the solution to this problem, they won't be. The problem is we don't have access to public policy, political power, and therefore we cannot create wealth out of the no wealth that we have. And crypto and blockchain are no different. They offer no pathway to changing any of that, despite a lot of what a lot of well-meaning people have said here today and have been saying over the last few years. This is part of the mythology that is meant to keep, in this case, Black people away from organizing for what is our only hope here, which is political power.
Do you agree with that statement, Obi and Terri? I mean, is there no difference between aggregating fiat dollars and aggregating Bitcoin? Is there a benefit? Either one of you?
I was going to follow up and say, I relate to Dr. Ball's position or support that position, thinking that, so much of the financial system has been developed by white people and around concentrating kind of wealth and economic power with whiteness. And so introducing a technology into that's kind of built off of the rails that has done, such a precise job of exploiting Black and brown peoples and people of color and advantaging, wealth accumulation for whites, that I'm skeptical of the ability of technology, even while there may be good uses, to leverage it in instances for kind of individual benefit. Perhaps this kind of like collective system really underlines that.
What's your opinion, Obi?
Well, in the spirit of being historically obedient, I'm going to go with what that great son of Africa, Frantz Fanon, said in terms of the definition of wealth. He said that wealth is not the fruit of labor, but the result of organized, protected robbery. So understanding our relationship to colonialism, understanding our relationship to physical captivity, there's one fundamental question on the table. What do we consider the most important resource in the world? That could be slippery based on Africans' lack of exposure to a narrative rooted in resistance. Some people may look at the variety of material resources we have, since we are products of the richest continent in the world, and put emphasis on that. But the human resource is the most precious, the human resource is the most significant. And we're having this conversation at a historical moment where Forbes magazine says there's 1,755 billionaires in the world, but there's 784 million people on the planet living on $1.90 a day or less. 400 million of them live on our mother continent, the continent of Africa. Of the 25 poorest nations in the world, 22 of them are in Africa. The other 3 are the Solomon Islands, Haiti, and Afghanistan. So our struggle for liberation is a struggle to deal with this question, but we understand the paradigm. We are supposed to use the struggle against racism to gain momentum from capitalism, but that's not the case, because the more it prevails, and it has not failed, it has been very successful. It has created these conditions that we are fighting against. And to expose those conditions is to confront this question courageously, regardless of whatever narrative is fashionable.
Well, can't a fiat exodus, because way built Bitcoin is built, the people that are powering the creation of Bitcoin and the exchange of Bitcoin are the people anywhere who have lent their computers to the network. So an exodus from fiat, don't you think that would influence the politics? If I created some type of network that said, look, for whatever my contracted work is, only pay me in crypto, and then even if I'm paid in crypto, it's easier than ever to shop at your everyday stores. They have app converters and things like that. Although I might be paying out the wazoo in taxes, maybe that's the catch. But it's easier than ever now than it was 4 years ago when this conference started, to live more and more off of crypto and not deal with fiat at all. Don't you think that would better, or not better, it would add to the pressure put on politics to change in terms of combating white supremacy?
No, currency is the result of political power and dominance and an extension of imperial power. So changing currency without having political power doesn't change the social relationships. Never mind that cryptocurrency is itself a Ponzi scheme. So all investing in cryptocurrency does is enrich the people who are already owning most of it, which is just like the world's wealth held by a handful of billionaires who want more people to invest so that the value of their already owned property goes up. This is already, so that's why they're using so much celebrity and public relations and financing. As I heard even earlier discussed on this conference, that's why they're offering free classes and inviting people, offering all kinds of incentives to get people involved. There is also the other part of it that is, as Seb Solomon and others have been writing about for a while now, that while people claim that blockchain is encrypted and safe and protected, and therefore cryptocurrency is itself, an alternative to banking and gives you more privacy, that's simply not true. The access, the encrypted protection is not as safe as people think. The federal government and other agencies have ability to get in it. They've built and been in process and been involved in the building of many of these networks and platforms. And they're investing. The most elite banking institutions, JP Morgan, Chase, et cetera, are investing in all of this and buying it all up. So, and I'm sorry, as Seb Solomon was pointing out, that what they're really the inducements to bring the colonized world, Black people here, people in Central and South America, throughout Africa, et cetera, into the crypto world is so that they can become data mining sources. Really just giving of their own human labor and resources and data and information over, and helping transfer all of that information, which is being used to for all kinds of things. The data is being used for all kinds of things beyond what we're even aware of, and often to put us under more surveillance and whatever and whatnot. So again, this is not some sort of we can get away from fiat to become free. This is well, as I said, another Ponzi scheme and trap.
I'm going to let Rayven respond to that in a minute, but I just want to add that to add some context to what is being said, there are more than 12,000 cryptocurrencies and counting. I think when this conference started 4 years ago, that number was less than 1,000 cryptos. We also have more than 400 exchanges that are listed. And people often, with crypto, you can buy peer-to-peer. It's like exchanging $1 with someone at a coffee shop, or so this kind of notion that there can be tracking in terms of just following where the exit points are. When does that fiat become a real world expenditure back into fiat? But there are a lot of proponents that are in the sector that don't actually want to deal in fiat. They want to buy and sell in whatever crypto that they're dealing with, and they don't want to have an exit ramp. So, responding to the notion that it's a Ponzi, Rayven, is crypto or Bitcoin any more than a Ponzi than the current fiat system?
That's a very good point. When we compare these systems, we're comparing it to the traditional finance system. So if we think about the way the dollar works today in the US, one could argue that that in itself is a Ponzi scheme, and it's a Ponzi scheme. The US dollar to other countries is also another layer of that Ponzi scheme. In my opinion, Bitcoin is a way to opt out of that traditional finance world where those guys are in charge, the governments and the banks are in charge. And I want to make a distinction here because you said there's over 12,000 cryptocurrencies. They're all different types of technology. A lot of these technologies, these assets do different things, and they're built for different reasons. I would separate crypto assets, cryptocurrencies, from Bitcoin itself, which is a truly different innovation. Bitcoin is secure. It is permissionless. Bitcoin is freedom. The innovation there is free and open access. Anyone who may be unbanked can build their own bank. They can be their own bank. They can manage their own funds in the way that has not been available before. So I would really push you to do some research specifically on Bitcoin, and definitely see how that can be a tool, a force for good in the world. And you talked about how some of these technologies can be used for tracking and for things like that. That is dangerous stuff that you can opt into because a person may not understand, the security implications of using the technology. So there's a lot to be said there, but I think that Bitcoin is separate from cryptocurrency would be my main point. And the true scarcity there is something that we haven't seen, because we can see the Federal Reserve Bank print dollars at will when they need it for coronavirus, for the infrastructure bill. They say they're gonna, tax the rich to get it back, or they're gonna tax, cryptocurrency people, but that is potential future revenue that they may not be receiving. So this money thing that we're discussing, I think it's broken. The traditional money system is broken, and Bitcoin is a solution to a problem where the banks and the governments who were in control in the past are no longer in control. Bitcoin is the only system that I'm aware of that is truly open and free, using those words strict there.
I think that there are genres, and I think it's important that you mentioned the genres. Bitcoin is the first in the decentralized, limited supply genre of pure blockchain cryptocurrencies. Dash and Litecoin actually also fall because the original Bitcoin core people, some of them defected to create other blockchains, as Bitcoin as a blockchain is open source. So there's a potential of even the decentralization of Bitcoin being having other blockchains that follow the exact same model for different reasons. They want to be, separate from Bitcoin, but still integrate, still being fungible back to Bitcoin, or whether they want to be fungible with a fiat or not. My question is, as the world, even the fiat world, becomes more digital, don't they have Bitcoin to thank for that? I mean, we're seeing more and more in our lifetime since 2009 that now you have all of these QR code based money transfers of just fiat. It's very more and more rare that people are walking around with straight cash anymore. Everything is digital. So my question to anyone who wants to take it, Terri, since I want to give equal time more people to speak, doesn't the fiat community owe a debt to the Bitcoin community for its recent innovations within the last, 13, 14 years?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of synergies between, a lot of like learnings that happen, from kind of Bitcoin communities and how that can extend into, for example, financial inclusion spaces. When folks kind of in the policy and think tank and academic worlds that I've been connected to, when they, I think that they have adopted some of the language, right, from technologists in the Bitcoin space. And I think there's a hopefulness there that, might not always play out, at least in these financial inclusion spaces, when oftentimes, the same folks who are, looking for banking access also don't have necessarily the same access to the technological tools, like high-speed internet or cell phone service, to be able to, use the technologies, the financial technologies that are being developed. So it's hard, for example, to balance your bank account through an online banking system without high-speed internet or a computer in your home. And I think that while those technologies are available to some, they're not kind of universally available, and that limits their potential.
I believe that the reason that I was brought here is in the spirit of being an organizer and to offer some solutions. Back in 2007, we introduced Mr. Skinner to the Zimbabwe government. And since then, he has been using this tactic to deal with the sanctions on Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe Democracy and Economic Recovery Act of 2001. Many, many years ago, another great fighter in Africa, Sékou Touré, leader of the Guinean Revolution, confronted with the same question, he said, "It is not the adaptation of political action to economic action. On the contrary, it is the use of economic activities for political ends. The way that you will distinguish yourself in this capacity is by the political activity you pursue with the resources that you're trying to generate." Right now, we know that the corona pandemic is one of the main issues in the world that everyone is struggling with. And you also know that the country that is at the face of eradicating this genocidal pandemic is Cuba. If you know anything about Cuba, you know about their healthcare system. You have focused on their work on the African continent. They have 4,000 doctors on the African continent performing a multitude of miracles. You remember 6 years ago where they went into Sierra Leone, they went into Guinea, they went into Liberia, and they dealt with the Ebola pandemic. So at a time where the United States Agency for International Development, since its inception in 1961, has been practicing on the African continent nothing but all-out political blackmail, since George Bush has reinvented himself as a born-again humanitarian through his foundation and his exploits in Africa, you know what the Gates Foundation has done. What we are suggesting that those of you in this particular space you can consider doing is you can take a look at the work that Cuba is doing on the African continent, and you can create a resource pool for their work on the African continent. Right now, we are targeting Zimbabwe. Their work in Zimbabwe, their work in what's called South Africa, their work in Eritrea, their work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, their work in Liberia, their work in Nigeria, their work in Ghana. We had to include Ghana in the equation because at this moment, our people are going to Ghana like gamblers go to Atlantic City and Las Vegas. So this is a practical example of what you can do if you're willing to do the advocacy, if you're willing to have the discussions, if you're willing to strategize, if you're willing to organize around it. So I would never dream of coming here and tearing down your platform, talking being a messenger of doom and gloom, if you will, but not offer you some activity that you can seriously think about, seriously strategize around. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Skinner and I have been talking about figuring out a way how we can support the Cuban doctors in Zimbabwe, where they have over 100. So that, for me, it's about engaging your sector of our community and taking a look at what these resources can be, how they can be utilized to intensify resistance. So based on my limited understanding in the scheme of the current economic paradigm in the world, I'm looking at how we can use these resources and provide our people an alternative to the United States Agency for International Development, to the National Democratic Institute, to the National Endowment for Democracy, and the International Republican Institute, as we have gone from what we call COINTELPRO to OINTELPRO, overt intelligence, making those four institutions the biggest threat to world peace and world stability on the planet at this historical moment.
So, Dr. Ball, what, based on from your perspective, what would make our community wealthy if we were to stick with the current fiat system? You know, what are we doing wrong? We've been with this current fiat system since, you know, fiat was introduced into the Americas, so to speak, and we have not been able to acquire wealth within the current paradigm. So if it's not crypto, then what?
So I'm not advocating defense of the current fiat economic system. I'm saying it's also rigged and a hustle as well. And I wouldn't also describe it as what we've done wrong, as opposed to what we've been struggling within, more akin to an internally held colony within the most powerful country in the history of the world that targets our struggles with every manner of the resources and every part of the resources that it has at its disposal. So I don't think it's that so much as what we're doing wrong as how we're being targeted. And this is one of the many schemes and mechanisms that has been deployed against our community in the struggle in this country for a long time. That is to willfully, consciously encourage engagement in this economic and even political system as it's set up, as is standard, as is made the norm, and encouraging us through all kinds of mythologies to, become more financially literate, invest, save, work hard, start a business. All of these have been consciously wielded as psychological weapons to keep us distracted and focused elsewhere from what is our only real hope, which is political power to impact the public policy mechanism of this or any society that we are in. And then at that point, what we would be doing is creating policy that redistributes the wealth we are all contributing to the creation of already. We already contribute to a $20+ trillion GDP in this country that through public policy is redistributed upwards towards the less than 0.1% of the people in this country. So it's not an issue of what we're doing wrong, other than we're not organized. We're being encouraged away from organizing politically into the kinds of movements and organizations and efforts that are required. And being encouraged to do things that are very individual and limited in their capacity to address the needs of the entire community, i.e. start business, become financially literate, et cetera. When those in power know that that this is a distraction, that they themselves, as Rayven already said, he's right, that it's public policy that allows them to create money out of nothing and give it to themselves. It's public policy that allows them to not pay taxes despite making all the money in the world. It's public policy that determines how much we will be paid, or what is even wealth, and how it's defined and how it's distributed. All of that is public policy. It has nothing to do with the wealth that was created for those in power was not created because they invested in a new currency or started a business. It was through theft, colonial conquering, enslavement, military dominance, to set up a political apparatus that allows them to determine how society will run against us and for themselves. So that's what we need to be focused on. And I would encourage people to join. So to a certain extent, I agree that if the goal and this is the part I never hear in discussions about business investing or crypto and blockchain. The goal, if the goal is to create some pools of resources that can be used to impact a political struggle, I would agree with that and support that. But what's being done is what we're being told is that through these processes, we can become free. We can become equal and wealthy just through these investments and engagements with crypto or some other business apparatus. And that's what I'm saying is not real and not true, and part of the mythology that has been intentionally imposed on us for 150 years at least. So anyway, so we need a system where there's equality of outcome, not of opportunity, and that requires political struggle.
I have my thoughts, and I definitely want Terri and Rayven to input after I give a few of my thoughts. But my thoughts is, I think narrowly you're looking at it from what is most marketed about crypto. Buy and hold because it's going to go up. It's an investment, that sort of thing. Whereas there are actual companies that we're not necessarily funded to build, but others are. So, for instance, I did an interview with Ashish Gadnis, who is the CEO and founder of a company called Bank U. And all he did was he recognized the problem with the most impoverished in different countries of Africa, the miners, the farmers, the recyclers, not being considered a part of the supply chains, of corporate supply chains, even though what they were gathering and what they were doing would ultimately end up in a brand supply chain, such as Anheuser-Busch in making beer. Though the farmer that does that grain stuff is considered zero, not one. The SME, the small medium enterprise, is level one. So because they're level zero, they can't get bank accounts in their respective company. They're not even recognized. They can get plenty of all the loans they want, but they can't get bank accounts to help to get their compensation for what they're doing. So all he did was put a blockchain solution in between and said to the corporations, will you give them directly bank accounts and pay them directly for the amount of data they can provide on what they're providing at level zero? So if I'm collecting this amount of data and we know that the person that's a level one agrees that this is what they collected it, would you pay them? So the level ones don't have to pay them, the corporation said yes. So now you have circumstances where he can take the most impoverished of the world and get them whatever currency they want. And most of them are choosing fiat. So that's good news for the fiat world. Get them paid. Now that they have a currency, now they can flip and get bank accounts. they can pay bills and other types of things. And not to say that everyone has a bill, but they can do things like school fees. So they might not respectively have electricity or some type of utility in which they could do, but that school fee now denotes them paying something, and now they can get a regular old bank account. So it's almost like this ecosystem solve something that the traditional fiat world was unwilling to solve.
I get all of that. It just doesn't lead to wealth. That's not a wealth producing. Becoming part of the supply chain and getting a bank account is not how communities build wealth. That's not going to change any. That has been going on for a long time. That's been part of the encouraged method of struggle in this country imposed on us when COINTELPRO wipes out our leaders and assassinates and exiles our leaders. They bring in new leadership that says, get us a contract from a corporation, get us into the supply chain, and a few more Black people in positions in that supply chain will do better, and then they can start to improve their conditions. Oh, that's not how. That's an old con. It goes back to my point about the data mining thing. They were being brought in to become human data miners. So all the data they're giving is is worth far more to those giving them a bank account than the wealth they'll be able to generate from that bank account. So that's all I'm saying. I fully understand. I think what's happening here is that people who engage in crypto and blockchain do so, I think, without a full comprehensive study and appreciation for how the economy and the global or national economy works. And they keep thinking that these are pathways to circumvent that economy, and it's not. Anyway, but
Rayven or Terri, do you have anything to add to the greater understanding of the potential of wealth bringing that Bitcoin and crypto can add?
Yeah, I just want to start with, I think my argument is that crypto is like the equalizer, right? So it'll allow people in far out, very impoverished, as long as they have access to the internet or something, they can be doing complex financial transactions. They can do things now, they can leapfrog, the traditional banking system with, technology now that's very attainable. It's very easy to grasp for most people. And you talk about these aren't systems to build wealth. Well, crypto was invented, Bitcoin was invented about 12 years ago. It's worth over $1 trillion. That wealth is created through the security of the network. Like, because we know that the Bitcoin network, the longer it stays running, there has never been an issue with it. That is security, in that that's a place where people can store their wealth. For example, if you have to flee your country and you have to take all your wealth with you, it's very difficult to do that with something tangible like a gold, a cash, or anything like that. With this innovation here, cryptocurrency, someone is able to transfer that wealth with them on their person in full value, like the full amount of that. And it doesn't take up any space. It's digital. It can be just a password. So I think that this technology really does a lot of good for the world, and what it does bring, just at the basic level, is game changing. And there are very many more innovations to come. This is the first inning, and in my opinion, crypto has already changed the game, and we'll only see that over time. So just keep watching Bitcoin. I think there's going to be so many innovations that the whole world is going to be different because of this technology. But go ahead,
Terri.
So I'll just add, I think of this this question on a couple different levels. So individually, there may be things, and there are things that I should do kind of as a person to divest from the existing systems and or like navigate through the exploitation that can happen from these systems. And then at the institutional level, I think that's where like building collective power and redistributing wealth and reimagining, establishing new institutions, is a important and necessary way forward. When thinking about redistributing wealth and political and economic power. The examples that I can point to, I think, like public banking, like solidarity economies that remove the linchpin of private shareholder profit, I think are promising at the collective structural level for rethinking what those institutions might look like. But we may have, for example, a case study in El Salvador, which recently kind of adopted Bitcoin as its legal tender, and so that's an ongoing example, and we'll see how that plays out, kind of as a currency kind of adopted at the national level, what that will mean for people in that country, and particularly people who are poor and marginalized there.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is the on-ramp. I'll let you speak in a minute, Obi. It's the on-ramp for Ecuador. The government is controlling the on and off ramp. So those of us in the crypto sector, you're really big on the term decentralization, as if to say, how you get there is up to you. And it's not necessarily you have to go one way. You have to go one commercial way or one government way or limited commercial ways, because the American way of doing things is to say, look, we don't have what Ecuador is going to have. You don't have to go through the government. You can go through Coinbase, Gemini, and Uphold and some other, but none of us are usually those Coinbase. So it creates a kind of a similar paradigm. So it's just kind of like this way, this access to this crypto and this exchange of crypto, which I think in one of the earlier panels was addressed a little bit with the Lightning Network, which I'm not as familiar with, but this opportunity of being able to launch your own node within your peer group and saying, okay, Terri and I, we're going to go have our own node, and we're going to interact directly with this one community in the Congo or something like that to aid them. And then we can go direct versus through these intermediaries and try to resolve a financial problem. So Obi, you wanted to comment?
Once again, it's an extension of my second wave of comments. it comes down to what are the political objectives of one's economic activities. For example, when we come to talk about, like I said, I'm the U.S. correspondent to Zimbabwe's national newspaper. Sir Richard Branson of Virgin Airlines is working with the Biden administration, working with the UK, working with the European Union to bring about a regime change in Zimbabwe, because he's already been plotting how to take over the industry of tourism. He put up $36 million back in 2006 to start a group called the Elders Group. Madiba Nelson Mandela was part of it. His wife, Gracia Marshall Mandela, was part of it. Kofi Annan was part of it. Jimmy Carter was part of it. And they tried to force their way into Zimbabwe. When Zimbabwe first came to power, when they were at the Lancaster House negotiations, their two liberation movements, Jesse Helms intercepted one of the agents in that process named Bishop Abel Missouriwa, brought him to Washington. He sat down with R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, and they let him know if he supported them taking over the tobacco industry in Zimbabwe, they would give him political backing. So R.J. Reynolds in North Carolina and Philip Morris are working for the overthrow of Zimbabwe. When Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah came here, when Ghana changed their constitution and he went from prime minister to president, the people who tried to coerce him when he got here, he was here to talk about the hydroelectrical dam in Ghana, which was the first one built in Africa that not only provided electricity to Ghana, but to half of Benin and half of Togo. But the New York Cocoa Board of Trade wanted to speak to him about cocoa, and the Hershey family wanted to speak to him about cocoa. So they helped British intelligence and the Johnson administration overthrow him in Ghana. So once again, and when you talk about the Congo, you just mentioned the Congo, and we go back and remember the butchering of Patrice Lumumba, where John F. Kennedy said, don't assassinate him, but make sure he doesn't come back to power. And Eisenhower said, just eliminate him outright. We know about the role of the Democrats, the role of the Republicans, the role of the CIA, but we never bring up the role of CNP Telephone Company. They were involved. At this particular moment, there's a wicked white man on this planet causing all type of disturbances named George Soros. In Zimbabwe, he's financing 350 of the 400 civil society groups in Zimbabwe. Here in the United States, he purchases our organizations comparable to the way our ancestors were purchased at what are commonly referred to as slave auctions. So if we're talking about having economic activities that are can be politically distinguished from what the imperialists do, politically distinguished from enhancing a neo-colonialist agenda in Africa or a neoliberal agenda in Latin America, then it is something worthy of exploration. But those who engage in this economic activities, you must have an idea of the political sensibilities in the world. You must have a commitment to a fundamental change of the political dynamics in the world. That takes precedence over everything we're talking about. If not, all we're doing is making the mistake of propagating the notion that we're opting for comfortable exploitation. And that's why our people in the United States, when we talked about the fact that we're 70% of what is considered the world's extremely poor, we are 21% of the poor in this country, even though we're 12% of the population. So we're basically saying that it's better to be comfortably exploited in the United States and be free anywhere else. And lastly, what this forces you to do is target the countries that are in diametrical opposition to these type of things. So you look at Eritrea right now that has free education and free healthcare, and you see how the Biden administration is going after them. You see how they're going after Zimbabwe, who has a 97% literacy rate. You see how they're going after Cuba, how they're going after Venezuela. So all I'm saying is when we take a look at these things, we have to have the most advanced understanding of the world developments, but a track record of activity and service to position ourselves to make sure that we are not doing things to compromise the most militant forces on earth and not compromise future generations before they take their first steps and their first breath of air.
So I think what you're saying is, our roadmap to wealth, or Black people's roadmap to wealth, or as Martin Luther King put it, the poor people's campaign of all type to wealth, we're combating actually three different forces. There's public policy,
real quickly,
there's
but
private business industry.
I'm glad you brought that. But Dr. King was telling us to reach a level of understanding where we are fighting to eradicate poverty, not escape from poverty. Escaping from poverty is an individual thing. I can escape from poverty if I run a 4.3 in the 40-yard dash. I can escape poverty if I have a jump shot like Steph Curry. I can escape poverty if I rap like Nas or Lupe Fiasco. But the masses of my people will still be at the mercy of the capitalist system. We're not trying to escape it, we're trying to eliminate it.
That's a good point. I think Bitcoin is a tool by which to do that. I don't think we could do that without this tool, Bitcoin. I don't know which, you listed a lot of different countries where, Zimbabwe, for instance, we were talking about that for a while. And then we can look at the local currency there versus the US dollar. And I think that Bitcoin would have been, instead of holding the currency of Zimbabwe, if you had hold Bitcoin, for example, that is a better situation for you. So somebody in Zimbabwe, Venezuela, places that experience hyperinflation, Bitcoin is a safety net. Bitcoin is a safe haven. And it's a tool for good that cannot be stopped by any of these major countries. Even if China, the US, Russia got together, the security of the network is such that even those three countries working together would have a very, very difficult time even trying to turn back 1 or 2 blocks of the Bitcoin network. The security and ability to disconnect money from these government powers. So Bitcoin is money without the government, right? So we can take them out, then we can change the money, then we can change the world. So that's a layer of control of power that they have over us because they control the money. So we got to get them out of the situation to even begin to
we have 2 minutes, but I think Dr. Ball made a good point. And we have to keep Ecuador in mind, or is it El Salvador? Sorry, in mind, even when it comes to Zimbabwe. Yeah, okay, Bitcoin itself could be great and ideal as a replacement currency for countries that their currency, their fiat has tanked. But if you have the governments that are regulating and controlling how Zimbabweans buy Bitcoin, that's how you have the hyperinflation individualized to that respective country, so that Bitcoin essentially doesn't help them if they can't say, okay, well, I have this amount and I can get it from like another country. So it's kind of, it can be manipulated. Their on-ramps can be manipulated, even when Bitcoin itself can't be manipulated.
Madam Moderator, we got to move on. But I just want to, like this was one of my most exciting and favorite sessions. It really captures why we started this. We wanted to have folks in some of these so-called, social science and hard sciences come together because there is a need for a real critique, a real, real assessment of our contradictions. And I think so often we can be isolated in silos and never get a chance to have real conversations. If we're truly saying that we're doing something that's going to help our people, we should invite the criticism. And again, Obi was one of the early folks that we had, but meeting and reading Sister Terry's stuff and Brother Ball, man, whoo, you're so beautiful, Black man. Whoo, you just gorgeous. And happy belated birthday. I think it was a birthday. I've been stalking him on his social media. And I just wanted to say it to our tech community, it's going to take all of us, you know what I'm saying? No one's coming to save us, and we have to find ways to collaborate and work together. And again, explore these, again, it's not criticism for the sake of criticism. Of course, we're going to have those are haters. That's different. Folks who actually are giving you information to make better decisions with, to help you make better solutions. We should invite that. We should say thank you. And I'm saying thank you to you, Obi. Thank you to Professor Ball. Thank you, Sister. I say, is it Friedline? I don't want to say it wrong. So I've been saying Terry. What was it, Professor Friedline?
Friedline, that's all right.
Friedline. I apologize. My tongue colonized. I don't say some of these things. Sister, Professor Friedline. Listen, I'm just so blessed that you guys all have been willing to take time out of your lives to actually share this. And my prayer is that all the people listen will seek you out. And we need to have more folks like this, helping us with our projects. Now, even if they don't want to put their name, even they just want to say a couple words to you because they don't want to get too involved with stuff they don't like. we really have to challenge each other to make solutions. And being out here in the arena trying to do it, we all are doing our best. If we can collaborate with those whose intentions at least are honorable. And again, everybody did it in a kind way. Like even the words, like even Ponzi scheme, brother, I love like Ponzi, like, and you know what's so funny? Being in the blockchain, Ponzi, like being called, like that's like a common accusation. So you kind of like, yeah, I got you. Like, but tell me more. And the fact that you tell more and literally say beyond the sound bites. And the same thing, Brother Obi, back in the original day, people talking all this capitalist talk, knowing that we've seen capitalists do nothing but kill and destroy us, having these real conversations in a way that at least, I'm not gonna say loving, because we just all met each other like that. But my point is to have it in a positive way, but still critical, like unapologetic. No one said, I take no, unapologetically say what you have to say. And young brothers like Brother Rayven, I know you ain't been on no Bitcoin, nothing, where you heard folks talking about at the conference calling it positive. So this is for you too, Brother Moore. Brother Moore, you spoke, now you have to go home and do some homework, look these folks' books up, look their writings up, and so you can be better. This is, there you go. This is what we do. We're this is how sausage is made. I'm not trying to push pork. I don't eat pork. I do eat meat. But I'm saying this is how it's made. This is the struggle of it. So anyway, I just want to say thank y'all so much. We were over time. And Deidra, you're so great at moderating, because again, your wealth of background was able to actually encourage people to participate at the same time that everyone, you know, I used to work with the Occupy movement. There were certain little things they would do so everybody's voice could be heard. You do it in a probably a more convention summit style, but definitely thank everybody for participating. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you all very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Peace.
Thanks.
Thank you.